When you stand praying, all you got to do is just believe, and you shall have whatsoever you pray. Just believe.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rosalind Farrell, and I will be your host for tonight's Just Breathe podcast. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a very special guest, Miss Laurie Wiley. Am I pronouncing that right?
Swilly. That's
Swilley.
fine.
Look,
Yeah.
I asked you and still pronounced it wrong, but I'm gonna get it right. Swilley.
Right.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us on tonight. I truly appreciate your yes. And we're going to just go ahead and get started for tonight. So I'm going to introduce Miss Laurie Swilley, is the CEO and founder of Leap HR Consulting LLC, launched in May of 2022. The company is a premier destination for leadership development and consulting, specializing in strategic planning, talent management, workforce engagement, and HR training. Laurie spent more than 20 years in corporate America working with Fortune 500 companies to lead their people in HR functions. Her experience includes director roles at McDonald's Corporation, the Home Depot, and Allied Universal, plus a solid track record of management and people development. Laurie earned a BS in Business Administration from Elmhurst University in Elmhurst, Illinois, received a certificate in Executive Leadership and Management, along with Professional Project Management from the University of St. Thomas, St. Paul, Minnesota. In addition, she regularly volunteers across her community to support local businesses and charitable organizations. Wow. Well-rounded. I love it.
Yes. Thank you.
You are welcome. All right, Lori. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and dive right into our topic tonight of silent quitting in loud cultures.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
so
love
this,
that topic. Yes.
yes, it's definitely needs to be talked about, especially in our HR world. I know that you've experienced some things in your experience, and so have I. So we're
Hmm.
just going to talk about some things tonight and flow however the Holy Spirit leads us to flow. So my first question is, what is quiet quitting and how does it differ from disengagement or burnout?
Okay. So it is all the buzz right now, right? And what people don't realize is quiet quitting. You actually haven't left your job, right? So that is the first thing to understand. They are they're really mentally checked out. Right? They no longer are doing um, extra. They're not going the extra mile. They're not doing overtime. They're not signing up for extra projects. When you quiet quit, you do the bare minimum. You're doing only what is asked of you and what's absolutely necessary. So you are truly disengaged and you no longer have the commitment and the desire to do your job, but you're still collecting a paycheck. But again, the key is you have not left, but you're still getting a paycheck. You are just no longer engaged with the job. You're not willing to go above and beyond. You're just there doing what is necessary to collect a check.
Yes. And I
Hmm.
think the pandemic is really when we start seeing some of this. And it's so many variables that goes into that quiet quitting,
Hmm.
and everything that you name, just you have really just really established some boundaries of
Yep.
things that you're no longer going to do. So everything that you said, working the overtime, just You're showing up doing the bare minimum. You're not going to go above and beyond. So you have established those boundaries within that quiet quitting.
You
Yeah.
have, and
Yeah.
and and, and that's so pivotal because the balance that people try so very hard to establish while at work, um, when you are not quietly quitting, you're there. You're giving 80, you're giving 110%, right, to your job, and maybe 80% to your family. So it's off kilter. But when you quiet quit, you actually see more of your time going to the personal and to your family and to things that really give you satisfaction and joy out of life. So when you're working to just collect a paycheck, you're not invested, you're not engaged. And
Yes.
eventually you will quit.
Ye-
Eventually you will physically quit. You're just teetering right at the
Yes.
moment.
Absolutely. That when you said just physically, it's emotionally, physically, like you're drained.
Hmm.
So, I mean, at some point, I can say, um, maybe once or twice, I've even experienced that in my career where you just become emotionally drained and you, like you say, you just check out.
Oh, you do. And I can
Yeah.
tell you from personal experience, I have had burnout,
Yeah.
and so in working in these very high stressful environments, especially cultures where, it's nonstop. It's 24/7. The expectation, especially for HR people, is that you're always on, right? You are always on. There's not any time off. And it increases exponentially when you are managing people because you then take on their problems. So, you don't catch a break sometimes. So it's very easy for that burnout and that fatigue to set in. And that leads to people not coming to work, people having personal issues, health and balance is off, their emotional and physical welfare is really off. And so, people take short leaves of absences. Sometimes people have serious illnesses, all as a result of that burnout.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Yes. All of those things. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. Which leads to the next question. Why do you think quiet quitting has gained so much attention in the recent years?
You know, people have always been doing it. Okay, and this is nothing new. What's new is we're socializing it now. All right, and we put a label on it, and you and I both know, people were talking about, oh, the great resignation. People have always been quitting. The
Mhm.
problem is once you put a label on it, right, and then it just amplifies it. And in the world that we're in right now, everything's digital, everything's on social media, and people have platforms to voice their discourse. So if
Mhm.
you're unhappy, no longer, are you sitting silent and just dealing with it, right? Making lemons out of lemonades. No, you're going to go home, get on your phone, get in your car, and you're going to rant, or you're going to just exhale, and you're going to do it in a public space, and you're going to do it on your own, in your own technology, whatever that looks like, whether it's your YouTube, your Instagram, your X, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, Instagram, whatever platform you feel comfortable with, that gives you an opportunity to air out the feelings that you're having. And so people can now see that there are people that are frustrated with their jobs and they won't tolerate it anymore. So I really think that the tolerance is no longer there, and
Yes.
people are okay right now with saying, you know what, forget this job. This is not everything. I know I got bills, but my personal happiness is more important. So, years ago, pe-
Mhm.
people would not quit their jobs until they had something else lined up. You remember that?
Yes.
Because you would say to yourself, "Oh, I hate this job, but I got bills to pay." You know,
Absolutely.
"Oh, I can't stand my boss, but I need a job." So you felt like your options were limited and that you really didn't have a lot of control. And I think now, especially the millennials, they've taught us that it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to say, you know what? Um, I'm no longer going to deal with this unrealistic pressure. I'm not going to deal with all these responsibilities, this excessive overtime, and I'm not going to deal with this burnout. And I don't have to. So some of them, they just walk away without having anything lined up. But guess what? they're reclaiming their peace and they're taking control over their lives. So I think that's kind of really what we're seeing is people are no longer tolerating these environments that are toxic and that are not conducive to their personal mission and their life and their values.
Yes. So one of the things when you first start talking, the great resignation, and when they put that title on the great resignation is where
Hmm.
saw the incline of people just resigning, and it's no longer. I think what came with the pandemic is I can work from home, so the sacrifices um, are different now. If I can't work
Hmm.
from home, well, I'm just going to go down the street where they offer hybrid, or I can work from home. I mean, it's
Hmm.
just all those type of variables that have changed so many things. But like you said, people have always resigned. Just some of the variables have changed on what they're not going to sacrifice and what they're not going to compromise
Oh
with
yeah.
their boundaries.
And you touched on something that I think is so key right now. You talked about hybrid, and people can just go down the street. You know what? If you won't let me work the hours I want to work, I'll just go
Mhm.
down the street. The options are there now, and where they didn't used to be, right? I was just looking at something the other day about all of the remote work from home opportunities. As much as people were pushed and forced to come back to work for a couple days a week after COVID, you kind of saw this migration of companies coming back to the office. You still have a great deal of companies who see the benefit of allowing people to still work from home. So that culture is still there, and I don't think they're ever going to leave. COVID has given us the latitude to say, I can do this job anywhere. I don't
Yeah.
have to be in your brick and mortar. And as long as you know I'm getting the job done, then we're good,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Absolutely. Yes. So yeah, those things are, like you said, it's always been in place. It's just some of the variables have changed on how people are choosing to actually do their
Hmm.
work. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. All right. And my next question is, how do company culture and leadership styles contribute to employee disengagement?
Oh, boy. So, you know, the old adage is people don't quit companies, people quit people, right? And that is very true. And the reason why is because a lot of times it's the leadership style. It really is. It falls back on the leader not being astute or connected enough in emotionally intelligent to understand how they're leading and that their leadership is negatively impacting their personnel. So, leaders that are not self aware, right? They are not emotionally connected, they don't understand what they're doing that might be negatively impacting their employees, then they're going to continue to lose people. And until the company realizes that the leader might be the problem, then you're going to continue to have that churn and burn of employees. So I think leadership styles that are a lot more servant leadership, they understand that their role is to take care of their people, right?
Mhm.
If you take care of your people will take care of you. Um, Leaders that are transformational, Rosalind, versus transactional, right? Transactional, you just do this for me and that's it. It's kind of, I pay you and you do a job. I need you to do this for me and that's it. You just keep moving on. It's just a transaction. Transformation is when the leaders understand where they need to be flexible, where they need to adapt, and that they understand they need to motivate employees in order to really help them be the best version of themselves. I've seen a lot of autocratic leaders, right? Leaders where it's my way or the highway. They're very authoritative. Those leaders don't make it very very long, right?
Yes.
In certain cultures they do. So if you think of environments that are very stringent, that are very, I don't say militant, but very disciplined, and they're very regimented, that autocratic style might be beneficial, right? But in
Mhm.
environments where you need to engage, you need to show more empathy, you need to be able to be visionary, you need to be able to respond to situations. That's where we really need those leaders to be. when you're in a space where you're dealing with people and you've got to navigate real life problems and help people understand in order for them to get to the maximum output, right? And have people reach their potential, you got to help people see the best versions of themselves.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Right. So I think that's the one of the pitfalls is the leadership styles are driving employee turnover. They're creating toxic work environments, and they're not allowing employees to feel that they can bring their true selves to work.
Yes. So one of the things, well, not one of the things, well, I have experiences working in the manufacturing environment most of my career, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
started out of watching like the old school leadership, do as I
Mm-hmm.
say, not as I do, beat down, beat down, beat down, beat down.
Yeah.
Well, if we are going to evolve, we have to be agents of change, right? Because that's not the way we manage people these days. And not saying that back in the 50s and 60s, because that's all you hear is, well, we've
Mm-hmm.
always done it this way. Well, just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean that it's right. And in order for us to evolve with the world, we have to change. We
Mm-hmm.
can no longer, manage people that way. And the leadership style is so very important in
It is.
everything that you said. Because people will, like you disengage, they will go to burnout because people don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be micromanaged. Or if you're going to micromanage what I'm doing, they had an attitude of just go ahead and do it. And they're going to allow you to go ahead and do it. I mean, if that's the way you're going to manage people. And in my experience, what I have learned, most organizations have two types of people. We have leaders and we have
Mm-hmm.
people of power. People of power are those dictators that are just going to, I'm going to do this because of a person's title,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to compromise your ethics, your morals, everything, because you're going to do it just because someone told you to do it. And then we have leaders, the style that you just talked about. So yeah, all of those
Oh
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, and just the other day I was reading an article, Rosalind, about revenge quitting. Have you heard of that?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so it's another term, and it's getting spent out there. But the definition of revenge quitting is this is the Gen Z group, right? They are deliberately quitting toxic work cultures that no longer suit them, right? They if they don't align with their personal values, right, their beliefs and their causes, they are just deliberately quitting. So they're calling that revenge quitting. It's almost like, I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna show them, I'm gonna quit. Even you and I come from the age where, you gave your 2 weeks notice, right? You did a proper resignation. You wanted to make sure you stayed and finished whatever projects because you didn't want to leave your company in a bad position.
Yes.
Those days are over now.
Over.
Okay. Yeah, because the philosophy is you don't give me the same discretion. If you want to let me go, I'm gone tomorrow, right?
Mhm.
You're not leaning into me, so I'm not going to lean into you. So I don't care about the project. I don't care that, I just took vacation last week or such and such is out on leave and you're going to be put in a bad position. You've left me no choice. Until now, I'm going to deliberately put you in a bad spot by leaving you the way I'm going to leave you. Not even a 2 weeks notice. I'm seeing people not even give a week's notice and they're gone. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's pretty messed up if you don't
Yes.
even want to give a proper resignation. And for me, I've always said, 2 weeks, yes. With 1 week, oh my God, I don't know that I want to subscribe to someone giving 1 week, but sometimes you may have to. You know what? It just really depends on the circumstance. Um, and I think people will appreciate it as long as you are able to articulate to them, why you're leaving, you have an opportunity, and for whatever reason, you've got to start, but at least you're being professional. It's when you don't even be professional with it and you just leave,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And you just hit on something so key when you're no longer professional.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when do we take that out of the work environment? When you're not even professional, it's like, what happened here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I won't, I'm not going to use the term old school, but um, just the culture has changed so much in how we relate to one another, right?
Yes.
And just even physical one-on-one contact. There are leaders who never seeing their employees face to in person because of the environment right now. COVID pushed a lot of that, and it allowed us to really transform and see that we can accomplish things even on a global level without even having people come face to face.
Yes.
However, you do lose a lot of that connectedness, right?
Yes.
You lose a lot of the ability to make meaningful relationships because you don't have that face to face contact. And I think because of that, at least from what I've seen too, there's this more lackadaisical
Mhm.
approach, right? More laissez-faire, what they're going to get the job done, and people are getting the job done. They're wearing caps and sweatsuits and pajamas, and they're getting on Zoom calls, and the professionalism, you're seeing it's dwindling.
Yes.
So when you get to the point where you don't even care about how you appear on a Zoom call in front of your supervisor, your peers, and this is work. So I think
Hmm.
we've kind of gone a little bit too far with yeah, bring yourself to work. I get it, right, and you can do your job anywhere, but there's a message that you are sending also with your commitment and your level of engagement when you just don't even want to show up.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, showing up physically is important, right, but how you show up, right, to
Yeah.
me, it's you get dressed in the morning, you get ready, you get ready for work, you turn your Zoom call on, you got your face, right, you what who cares what the bottom looks like, but at least the top at least the top
Yeah.
part is good, um because you care about your image, and I'm sure you'll agree with me. We're seeing that get very distorted, even at the biggest, best companies. People are changing the way they view professionalism and the way they view how you show up for work.
Yes. You are hitting the nail on the head. Just the part of the professionalism and how we show up. I mean,
Hmm.
I've been in interviews where people coming in with pajama bottoms and shoes and baseball hats, and I'm like, what is this? What
Hmm.
happened? And just the fact of the communication, we've even got like a days with that. I'm used to having staff meetings. We're gonna report. We're gonna report on our metrics, and
Hmm.
we just depend on emails now. It's just like, where's, yeah.
And they say we're actually teaching people how not to communicate because we're so controlled now by devices and even AI. I was just listening to the news where someone um, was using AI, and AI made up stuff. It wasn't even like they were using real material. And so now we're relying on AI to give us the real stuff because we've gotten lazy. We don't want to look it up. And now AI is generating fake stuff. So
Goodness, listen, it's too much.
it is.
I just learned about Chat GPT. Someone's talking about them. I'm like, what is that? It's like, you don't know about Chat GPT. I'm like, no. But yeah,
Yeah.
just things
It,
have just changed dramatically. I'm like, what in the world is this?
they do, and as society changes, right, uh, from an HR perspective, we also need to make sure we're able to stay current with the change
Yes.
and adapt to it, because if people do not realize that quiet quitting is going on, that tells me that they're not in tune with their employee
Mhm.
base, right? If you didn't see the signs, right, shame on you. If you
Yes.
didn't see the signs and you didn't recognize that you had some dissatisfied employees, that they were checked out, shame on you.
Yes.
Because I coach people all the time, about employee engagement, and do you know how engaged your employees are?
Hmm.
So, people, there are all kinds of tools you can use, and you can pay these companies to do surveys, but you can do them yourself also. Why pay for someone to do something that you can do? Talk to your employees. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. You know,
Yes.
and you're not asking them 50 questions. You're just asking them a few very pointed questions. How are things going? How are you doing?
Yes.
What else can I do to help you? Okay, what's preventing you from doing your best, right? And
Yes.
then, like you say, the numbers don't lie, and we are bound by measures. That's a lot of times how we are viewed. So we've got to produce, and
Yes.
so the metrics don't lie. Look at your metrics, and kind of start to peel that onion back and figure out why people are leaving. I had a company once that I was doing some consulting for, and they had a huge issue with turnover. And one of the things I looked at, I said, well, show me your reports. And they're like, what reports? I want to see your, like your HR personnel reports. And I said, so let's look at the number of people who are out on leave of absence. Let's look at the number of people who just quit with no notice. Let's look at the tenure of people, right? Are you losing senior people who've been there a long time? Are you losing people who've been there, less than 30, 60, 90 days? Look at your orientation processes, right? Look at absenteeism. Your data is right there, right? And when you start looking at the data, then you can start to connect the dots. And we were able to make some pretty eye-opening assessments. You could quickly see which supervisor has the most absenteeism, right? You can see which supervisor had the most people that had left in less than 30 days, right? So you're starting to kind of put the dots together. And so the devil's in the details, right? Let your data give you some answers, right? But then do the work. Do the real work by talking to your employees, and staying engaged with your people.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
This has been a heavy topic. I know when you and I first talked, I'm like, he's like, no, we're gonna have to split some of these questions up because this topic is heavy. But I have truly enjoyed this conversation of the disengagement, silently quitting.
Yes.
It's a subject that we can go on for hours and talk about this topic.
Oh,
But Lori,
yeah.
I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge, and dropping some golden nuggets. I mean, because everything you said was spot on.
Yeah, we're all learning this, the new environments. We're learning the new technology, like you said, Chat GPT, and I think we just have to be open to the change because, as you mentioned before, change is constant. It's not going to stop, and I think how we adapt and stay nimble is going to be the key. And just remembering that what you said before, our leadership styles, they are how we influence people and how we lead. So we've got to be cognizant of that. We got to make sure we're keeping it in check. And we're constantly looking at ways to get feedback and engagement from our employees to avoid burnout, right?
Yeah.
To avoid quiet quitting. And to make sure we've got people that truly feel like they're invested in what they're doing.
And that is key. They have to feel invested and that they are valued, or we're
Hmm.
gonna, yeah. So that is so key. They have to feel valued.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Oh yeah, no, definitely, definitely. I,
yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity to join the Just Breathe podcast.
Yes. So at this time, Lori, if you have any contact information, any books, share anything about your company, how someone can reach out to you and, might want to get some advice with consulting. But at this time, share any information that you would like to share tonight.
Sure, thank you. So, as I mentioned, I am the CEO and founder of Leap HR Consulting, and we provide premier leadership training and HR consulting. My clients range from the mom pa right business to the mid to large scale company employees, and really working on things that help to move the needle in terms of people development. I do strategic planning, organizational development, as well as workshops and educational training. And when I'm not consulting, I am an adjunct instructor. So I've worked for a couple colleges. I'm doing continuing education. So I am a big advocate of continuing ed
Yes.
and giving opportunities for people in the community that might be looking to make a pivot. They're kind of, in limbo with their careers, or they're looking to try and reskill, right? So
Mhm.
how do we provide access to those types of um, training sessions, right, at an affordable basis? So that is really one of my commitments to working with the community colleges, so that I can provide that leadership training to the folks in the community. And I also do workforce planning, and so working with schools, institutions that are looking to build up the capabilities for the young folks, so that they understand, everything that is involved in when you get into the workforce, and preparing them for college readiness, and just arming them with what they need to be a good student, right, and to be a good employee when they first get their first job. So those are some of the things that I'm committed to doing. And you can reach me. I do free consultations for the first 30 minutes, and you can reach out to me at leaphrconsulting.com. And I'm sure you'll provide the information
Yes.
to them on my website. And my phone number is 630-863-7665. And drop me a line. I'd love to have a conversation with you, depending on where you are, if it's personal coaching that you're looking for, or if you're looking for coaching for your organization or your institution.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you for sharing the information. And I will add the link to all platforms for those that are inspired to get in contact with you. Again, thank you so much for your
Wonderful.
time and everything that you shared tonight. You were spot on.
Yes.
I was so excited about having this discussion with you. Yeah, because, yeah, like I said, we can go on and talk for hours. So
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you again. Thank you to all the listeners that took the time to hang out with us
Yes.
tonight.
Thank you all.
Yes, yes. So with that being said, if anyone inspires to be a special guest of the Just Breathe podcast, please reach out to me at what is your detour at gmail.com. I would love to have you as my special guest. As always, to remember that Psalms 35 says that weeping endures for a night, but joy will come in the morning. And as always, remember to just breathe.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you.
You are welcome. Good night.
Good night. Bye bye.
Bye bye.